Hi everyone, how you all doing? This painting is painted in Artrage 6 using my custom brushes. I'm going to make them available for you, so go to the link below. Struggled with this one a lot. It didn't come easy to me. This was a really windy day in Buxton up in the hills. I hope I've captured that. Not sure if I have. Let's just get straight into the painting. So here we are in Artrage 6. I begin with a canvas. It's an unusual size because you can see it's a bit more panoramic than I normally work on, and it's 20 inches by just over 11.5 inches at 300 dpi. So it's still not a very small canvas. And then I just used the roller to get some colour on there really quick. And I want to use one of my brushes, which is called Lay It On Thick. And basically that just puts really thick coats of paint on in really big strokes. So I've got that sky in with those sweeping brush strokes. And then I go on to a brush called Thick Oil Over Paint. So it seems to me that I use four brushes. I also use the sort of Dirty Terps brush to just get a little bit of colour on there, but the three main brushes I used was the Lay It On Thick for the sky, then Thick Oil Over Paint brush, and a brush called the Detail brush. And those were the four brushes, but mainly three brushes that I used throughout this painting. And so I'm going to make them all available, so follow the link in the description below. And hopefully by the time this video comes out, I've not done it yet, so I don't even know how to export the brushes. So that's going to be fun. I've got to work out how to do that, but I've said I'm going to do it, so I'll make sure it's done for the end of this video. Now, what I want to talk about is the reason I use thick paint for this particular painting was that I wanted to use the brush strokes to indicate the contours of the ground. So basically, whichever direction the ground was going, whether it was angling up, sharp, vertical, flat, that was the angle of the strokes that I was going to use. Obviously for the sky, I just wanted to use that really big brush to get any sort of sweeping clouds. And the horizon as well, the sun catching the distant ground, that obviously is going in with horizontal strokes, but not quite as defined as the rest of the painting. So this is why I chose the thick paint. I wanted to get those brush strokes to give the contour of the ground, and I struggled with this a lot. And basically it was down to the brushes I was using. I created a multiply layer there and added a shadow just to change the color a little bit. And then once I'd got all of that sorted, I flattened the old lot down out. There we go. I flattened it all down to start painting into it again. And that was really because I was struggling and I didn't really know where I was going with it. And the reason I was struggling, I think, was the size of the brush and the type of brush I was using. So I was using this thick oil over paint brush, which was great for putting sort of medium-sized strokes on there. But when I wanted to get into the detail and made the brush smaller, it just wasn't working. And the brush that I needed to do the detail work was the detail brush. But I was messing around with lots of different brushes, and you can see at this point I'm not sort of happy, and there's lots of over painting going on. And this painting took probably twice as long as what I normally spend on a painting. So I'm guessing between 5 and 6 hours, just because I just was not happy with how it was going. And I painted it over 2 days. So the first day, which was yesterday as I'm recording this, this is the bit I'm still working on now. And at the end of it, I almost scrapped the painting because I was trying lots of different things. I was using the palette. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, I used the odd out edge palette knife, one of the default palette knives, to keep sort of smoothing it. And you can see those sort of rocks that are poking out of that hillside. I painted them in about 30 times, and it was really down to using the wrong brush, and I kept smearing them out and doing them again. And I was also, the color palette I felt I hadn't got right at this point. Everything looks really flat. There's not so much difference between the foreground and the background, and it's just a bad painting. And it stays this way, but I didn't give up. Usually I normally give up, but I kept going because I felt that there was something there that if I worked at it, I could get the picture out of it. And it's at this point, I think, I start to realize that by using light and shade as well as brush strokes, I think the deal was I was so into using the brush strokes to get the contours, I was forgetting about tonal contrast. So I start using tone, and you can see on the little hills on the left hand side, I've used light on the tops of the hills, and then used darker colors for the shade. And then I start to get to grips with the rocks as well. I add some stronger color into the sky. You can see I'm painting this in. This was all done yesterday, really. And then I tried to put that same color from the sky into the foreground, but it wouldn't mix. The paint wouldn't mix, and it was coming up with some sort of weird purples. And what I mean by mix, when I put the blue onto the red at the bottom right of the canvas, it was coming out bright purple. So something not quite right with the algorithm there of the mixing of the colors. So I gave up on that one and felt that I needed to come back to it a bit later on. Still working on these rocks, and I know what's wrong. I know that I kind of get it a little bit better there, where I was making these sort of stones in the rock too bright, and the ones on the right side of the painting need to be darker than the ones on the left. So I don't know why I kept painting them. I think I was just frustrated at this point. So this is coming to the end of the first day, and then I pick it up again at the second day around about here, and I've come at it with fresh eyes, and I'm thinking, right, I know where I'm going now. And I felt I needed some people in it. It all looked a bit barren, so I thought, let's go for some people. Unfortunately, at this point, I forgot to record the next bit of the painting, so you can see I've got a couple of people painted in there. What I did for that, I created a new layer, painted them in, resized them, moved them around, flipped them the opposite way. At first I had them walking into the picture, and then I felt I needed them to walk out, so I flipped them round. Eventually settled where I wanted them to go. I then flattened the layer and then just smoothed out the brush marks underneath. So sorry that I missed that bit. I hope it doesn't spoil it too much. So let's crack on. So the people go in, and I continue painting, and at this point I discover that I was getting a much better effect if I use my detail brush and take the size really small. So I'm down to like 50%. Well, usually I'm working at 200%. And then I start to think about the shadows way more and start sculpting in with that detail brush. And I decide that it's all looking a bit bland as well. It needs some brighter colour. So you can see I've put some almost oranges in the tops of the hills as well, and I'm just using that detail brush to obviously add detail, but really sort of pick out all of the edges and fine detail and stones and things, and also drawing sort of lines to keep that contour theme going in there as well. You can see some lines going in there where I'm adding some contours into it, so it's all looking a lot better. But what about the people? Do we need the people? I'm not so sure, so I decided to take them out. I'd love to know what you think, people in or people out. I just felt that this was such a massive scene that the people in it were intruding in my view of the painting, or even of the painting. I thought this shouldn't be here. This should be a very solitary experience where you're looking at this vista all by yourself. So I'd love to know what you think about that. They had to come out. So there we go. That is my painting of Buxton Hills on a very windy day, painted in Artrage 6 using my custom brushes. If you've enjoyed this video, big thumbs up as always is much appreciated, and if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, because I've got lots of videos like this and I would love to be sharing them with you. So hopefully I will see you all in the next one. Bye.